In this video, I've acquired an old belt. It's too long for me, so I'm going to be shortening it by cutting off the ends, finishing the new ends to match the rest of the belt, punching some more holes, and dyeing the insides of the holes as well. So in this first part, you can see that I'm testing the belt out just to see how far. I'm going to have to cut it much shorter. I'm going to mark on it with a Sharpie so I know what the good length would be. And here I'm going to just draw the new profile of the belt. That way I've got a guideline for when I go to cut it. I'm not just cutting it freely. And I'm finding materials. I'm going to need a straight edge, a ruler of some kind, and a knife. I'm using a regular Olfa blade for this one because I don't really have another knife, and because they're such short cuts, it doesn't really matter. So here I am trimming the new end off, making sure that it's the right length, and I'm going to finish trimming it, determined that it was the right length, so now I'm going to make the end even. So here I am with the leather dye. I'm going to dye the end, the new end, which you'll see when I pick it up in a minute, is a very pale brown color and won't match the rest of the leather. So I'm just going to give it a quick job and dye it so that it matches. I'm using a Q-tip because I barely need a brush for this small tiny job, and then you'd have to wash the brush anyway, so I just went ahead and used a Q-tip so I can throw it away. While that dries, I'm going to add the new holes that I'll need. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to add about 5 holes. And the way that I normally do this is that this is my hole punch tool right here. I have it on the biggest setting. I'm not sure exactly what size it is, but the biggest one that my hole punch does is pretty much what you need for any belt prong on a generic belt buckle. So when I make holes, normally I make an indent first. I press down just hard enough to make an impression where the hole will be, and if that's the right spot, I'll take the punch out, check if that's the right spot, and if it is, then I'll go ahead and actually cut the hole. So my hole punch is actually pretty dull at this point, so you're seeing that I have to rock it around just to make sure that it cuts through the entire layer of the belt. You can do this pretty precisely by measuring between the holes, but I'm just going to eyeball it because I'm only making an old belt fit new anyway. I'm not making a new piece. It just needs to be good enough. So I'm going to eyeball the rest of the holes and put them in. I'm going to add a second layer to the dye I did earlier using the same Q-tip out of the trash. Here I'm dyeing the insides of the holes. It's not really a big deal, but it's kind of just a detail. If you leave them undyed, it's very apparent that it's a lighter leather. So I'm just using a Q-tip just to dye the insides of the holes. I've also decided to put a second coat on the end of it. What you can see me decide just now was that I didn't like how that finished end was going to look because I had not beveled the edges of the new end, so it was going to be a pretty flat end to the leather. So what I've just done is grabbed my beveling tool and I'm going to shave off the edges at 45 degrees essentially with this beveling tool on all 4 edges of the 2 new cuts. And you can see that I've cut off a part of the belt that used to be dyed. So I'm going to have to go in and add another coat. What I didn't do ahead of time was grab a little bit of water. I'm going to burnish the ends now using that wooden burnishing stick on my desk. Before you burnish the ends of leather, you want to get it slightly damp, so I'm using a sponge here, wringing the sponge out just to wet the edges, that way they feel like burnishing easier. You can see that I'm just rubbing. This burnishing rod has several widths of divots on it. I've chosen the one that most snugly fits the width of my leather, and I'm just going to rub it on the end until it's shiny and smooth. Shouldn't take very long for such a small piece like this. And that's that. Just packing up tools now. Try the belt on one last time just to make sure I got all the holes that I need. Don't need to add any more. And it looks pretty good to go.